Good evening. Looking for a little education, entertainment, maybe a moment of reflection? Well, we're glad you're here anyway. Thank you for joining us this evening for another episode of Two Average Joes with your host from Lake Havasu, Arizona, Tony P., and from Long Beach, California, Joe Kelly.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, man.
How you doing?
Doing great, brother. Hey, here's something that I did not know. Did you know that the traditional toque, a chef's hat, has 100 folds, which represent 100 ways to cook an egg? I did not know that.
A chef's coat.
A chef's coat has traditionally 100 ways that you can cook an egg.
Wow. I thought there was like 6 or 7, maybe 8.
Between the two of us, we got about, 65, 70 years worth of restaurant experience. Hey, well, it's good to see you, Tony. Missed you. How you been?
Doing well. Well, I have a tidbit to share.
Please do. Share away.
Radioactive bananas. Bananas are potassium minus 40, but harmless unless eaten in the millions. But had you eaten a million bananas, you would have radioactive particles from the banana and diabetes.
Well, what smells like bananas, looks like bananas, and tastes like bananas?
Hold on. Banana pudding.
No, monkey shit.
Well, I'm going to have to take your word on it. I could ask AI.
It's pretty funny. This is a good one here. What's the best advice you received from your mother?
I don't really remember a lot of advice from my mom, to tell you the truth, and very little from my father, but a couple zingers from my dad. But I don't remember advice from my mom. She just sort of taught you. She went. I would say the one thing that always stood out that she'd say about me to me was that I was my own best audience. I was the class clown, and I was just always, walking around. So I remember her saying that, but so I guess in a way that would be her way of saying, yeah, do your thing or whatever.
Well, I would
say it jokingly.
Well, it's interesting you say you were the class clown. I wasn't the class clown. I was the class comedian.
All elevated award.
Well, see, the reason is because the class clown was the guy that ran naked across the quad street. The class comedian comic is the one that got him to do it. So that was my
to this day, I deny that was me.
That was you.
I don't know anything about it.
What's interesting is that when we talk about the best advice from a mother, mine was never point a gun at somebody. And it's funny because I had a BB gun. I mean, I had a .22 rifle too, but the BB gun I took down to the beach in Florida. We went down there and went down to the Panhandle. And my cousin Stacy said something, and I said, "Don't you do that." And she said, "Ain't Barbara Kelly's pointing his gun at me?" And that's when you hear, "Joseph Kelly Harvey, get your fanny perpendicular right here, right now." And I walked up and she goes, "Give me your gun." This is no lie. I gave her my BB gun. She said, "Start running." What? Bam! She shot me in the leg. I'm like, ah! And I was like 2 feet away. I started running and she hit me 4 more times down the beach. And I'm running zigzag and she still hit me.
Right.
Well, she told me later, she said, "I have 325 straight skeet patches. You don't think you can run from me." So that was the best advice I ever learned from my mother was don't point a gun at somebody. That it's too strange to be false. That's a true story.
It is solid advice. And if you do, make sure you plan on using it.
Exactly.
Because that's what ends up backtracking on a lot of people. You know what I mean? They pull the gun out, but they hesitate. Next thing you know, guess what? Gun's in someone else's hands.
Exactly.
Problem.
Exactly.
Because they will use it.
That's right.
Well, mine is human bonds.
Ooh.
Or as I like to say, bonds. Human bonds.
Human bonds.
Shaken, not stirred.
I'll explain that later, but go ahead.
Share a story about a person who's had a significant influence on your life.
There's so many things, but one thing that really sticks out, and it created a lot of opportunities for me in the future. When I worked down in I was in Rancho Mirage at the Black Angus, and we had a lot of guests that were famous that came in there. And one day, Red Skelton came in there.
No kidding.
And he's sitting at the back right next to the kitchen, so to speak, down in Rancho Mirage. They had the kitchen, it was one of the entrances right there.
Right.
So cashier in the kitchen that way. So I walked over and to say hello to him, and he's got the menu over and he's drawn a picture of a clown, and I'm shaking going, "Oh my God, I want that picture so bad." That's Red Skelton clown. He painted him, it was all famous for him. And he got done with it and he signed his name and said, "Can you give this to the chef for me?" And I'm thinking, the freaking chef barely speaks English. He doesn't know who you are. He's going to use it as a coaster. But I did. I went and took it to him, and he goes, "Come back when you're done." So I went and he goes, sit, come on. And he was one of these
Put his
guys that
beer
was,
on it.
he was laughing and giggling to himself. He had a smile on his face.
Really?
It was so cool. And he sat down and he drew me a picture of a horse and he signed his name and he goes, no. And he erased his name because it was crooked and he wrote it again. He goes, that's for you. And I said, Mr. Skelton, thank you so much. And I folded it, put it in a book and saved it. And then I was listening to the Mark and Brian show. But this
Right.
is LA has the KLOS, Mark
Yeah.
and Brian. They're not here anymore. But they were saying one time that Brian was talking about his dad and how much fun they had together. And one of his best memories was watching the Red Skelton show. So I was friends, kind of, I always called, in fact, I could call down the station and say, how's the most beautiful woman in radio? And their assistant would say, hi, Kelly, how you doing? That's how many times I called. And she said, I wanted to give Brian of a Red Skelton. And she's like, that he drew. And she's like, really? And so I got on the phone and talked to him. He goes, really? And I said, yeah. I said, but I would like to just come down and give it to you at the studio. He goes, you can come down tomorrow and and hang out in the studio with us. So I went down to KLOS the next day, and there's 3 different sets of booths. Well, actually 4. The 4th one, they're all in a line. And you've got Frank Sontag was doing all the stuff in the very back, and then you've got Mark and Brian, and then you've got Kelly Gates was the news, and then you had the booth that they did all the production at. Well, I'm sitting there, and Priva she takes me in, and she goes around all the way to the end, and she whispers something to Brian, and he looks up, little big heavy sigh. He's about 6'5", 6'4".
Really?
Yeah, he's a big man, and he walks
Ryan
in.
was the guy with the curly hair, not the small guy with the. He was the like reddish hair,
Yeah,
yellow, blonde.
yeah, the younger guy. Mark was the older
Young-
guy that moved to North
Okay.
Carolina Panther fan from the South. But he walked in the room, he took a breath, and he was trembling. And he said, you know what? I've never hugged a man that I never met, but I want to hug you, Kelly. And he gave me a hug, and I just thought,
Wow.
this is the coolest thing in the world. So I became friends of the show, and I even talked to him years later and said, you probably don't remember me, but I gave you a picture of Red Skelton. He goes, Kelly, he goes, it's on my wall right next to my dad's picture in a frame. I saved it. And to me, that was the coolest thing. It's like, oh, I mean, it wasn't
That
celebrity,
is
but he remembered me. I thought that was cool. So how about you? Tell me an event that happened to you that had a big impact on your life.
birth of my children.
Oh.
I mean, that's about as realistic as it gets.
Were you there when they were born?
I was for 2 of them. No, I was there for all of them. The odd thing was my youngest, we were literally moving like that week. So we were at the hospital, and my brother and his wife, and we're loading up the house, and that kid went from the hospital down to La Quinta, where
Wow.
we moved down to the valley, your old stomping grounds.
Exactly.
And so he was in transit, and I think, you know what, sometimes that reflection, like when you're born, don't you think there has to be like somewhat of a calmness? And I don't know, I guess if you have a big family, you can't avoid it. We had young kids running around, right?
Yeah, well, see, the thing is my ex, you've met Dee Dee, she's very Hispanic. And so one of the things they believe, and I have to say it's true, I haven't talked to her or seen her that way in a long time, but they would take olive oil and rub it on where there would be stretch marks, so they would not create white lines. She didn't have a stretch mark after 2 kids. It blew my mind. But
That worked, eh?
but I'd sit there, and I have a gambling gut. I call it discerning spirit now, but at the time it was like I knew when something was going to happen. I could feel this in my gut. I'm like, oh my goodness. And I just started talking to Miranda. I go, hey, honey, how you doing? It's Miranda. This is your dad. And Dee Dee would say, how do you know it's going to be a girl? And I said, because I know that I know that I know. And so every day I would do that. And so we went in there, and she was born, and I watched him. I got to cut the cord, and then they take him in a separate room, and they clear the nasal passages, do the footprints, and I put them all the way up my shirt, with their feet. And then they take a lance, and they lance the bottom of the baby's heel. They draw blood. And so a baby, if you imagine being in the dark underwater and opening your eyes, that's what a baby sees. That first moment they're born, they can't see anything. It's just, everything is blurry. And it was one of those, and she just let out a belching scream, and I put my finger like this down, and I said, it's okay, honey, Daddy's here. And she stopped, and she looked around, kind of looking around, and she wrapped her hand around my finger, which was one of the most defining moments of my life, when my daughter recognized that I was there. I thought that was kind of cool. I'm glad I was there for that. I had to endure the 9 months, which I thought was hellish, and I got handshakes from her brothers, like, I can't believe you dealt with our sister for 9 months and didn't, run away. But she was
She had a hard one?
No, she's just she wasn't a very pleasant person. I don't know if you remember that.
Was it a summertime baby? Is that why? Was
Well,
it
put it
hot
this
and
way.
miserable? Or
When I took over as GM over at Monrovia, my hostess
Right.
said, the nicest woman's on the phone for you. She says that she's your wife, Dee Dee. I said, oh, give her a couple of months. Give her a couple of months. And like 3 months later, she'd look at me and she'd go, she's on the phone. It's like, no,
All
she
right,
is.
just
But
giving
but
you a
the
heads up.
but the Hispanics, they have a thing they do. They have a party. When the baby's born,
Right,
they bring the baby home. Families come over, the mariachi music and everything going crazy. And
right.
the baby's in the next room. I said, "Aren't you guys going to be quiet?" And her aunt says, "Mija, mijo, if we're quiet, the baby will never be able to sleep all its life. You need to make lots of
Right.
noise now." And that's
Yeah,
probably the
well,
best
it's
advice.
your body, it adapts. Your body adapts.
Exactly. What widely accepted belief needs to be dead and buried?
Hmm.
Some tough questions. Some
Well,
thinkers.
so that would mean kind of almost telling a white lie doesn't make you bad. You're still lying, but I think you should get a pass, and it should just be dropped. And I'm talking about things like, how do I look in this dress? You know what I mean? So I think that is something that could go, if that's even qualifies.
Hmm.
Little white lie. Hey,
Little white lie.
hey, I got my hair cut. Oh, man, it looks fantastic. Okay, there's no harm. What are you going to tell the person? Like, would you tell them the truth? I mean, there's the question. Is it the white lie, which is still a lie, right? Remember, there's no level,
Right, right, right.
right? But you're doing it to not hurt someone's feelings. What say you? What's is it acceptable then? White lie? Do you get a scratch?
Well, it's funny. I heard a guy online say his wife asked him a question. He goes, "Do you want the husband answer or the regular person answer?" I'm like, "That's about it." Is it a white lie if you tell somebody to look nice? I think the best way to do it is to say, to me, you look amazing. To me, I love that dress. That is one of my favorite colors about that dress. And my daughter, I heard her explaining to her new sister when I married Suzanne, and she was telling Lauren, all right, this is what you need. I know you're scared to meet people in school, but find somebody you think you might like and find something that they're wearing that you actually do like. You have to find something sincere that you can say that you truly like about that person. So when feelings are involved like that, it's like if someone spent their 3 weeks allowance to get something done and you say, oh, it looks like crap, but you're not really doing anything to edify and build that person up. You're just being stupid. So, well, there's a word that Sue and I, we came from different types of businesses. I love to mess with people called multi-level marketing. And there's an expression that I use when somebody is just so blatantly outrageously stupid, you go, that's amazing. Because amazing can either
Right,
be, I can't fucking believe you said that, or I can't believe you
right.
said that. So that's a tough one, man. But a white lie, I'll agree with you. So yeah, that makes sense. I'd say we get a pass on that because feelings are involved, and you want to try to love people where they're at.
What's the harm, right? What's
There's
the
no harm at all. I
harm?
agree with you. Okay.
Okay, you put me on the spot with those deep questions. By the way, you can skip that category next time. Do you have anything in the box that's geared more towards like a fifth or sixth grader? We're going to want to scoop those out. But while you find one,
I got
I've
one.
got a this
Go ahead.
this one's going to put you on. This is an interesting one.
Okay.
What's a secret dream you haven't shared with many people?
A secret dream I haven't shared with many people.
Not easy, is it?
No, that's a tough one. A secret dream I've never shared with many people.
I won't think bad of you if you tap out.
Well, I just have to give it a moment of thought.
I wanted to share
Please do.
something of interest. Older than a tree. What do you think animal is older than a tree?
Maybe a crocodile?
It is driven by water. And I'll add another thing into it. It's not only older than most trees, it's 450 million years old. The shark have the longest lifespan. Now, I would have
Wow.
thought tortoise or turtle, because I know they live like
Yeah,
hundreds of years. But
right.
anyways, it's sharks. But
Well, nobody screws with a shark.
that was your fluff time. It's all over with. Now back to what secret dream you haven't shared with many people. Now, this could be something you haven't even shared with your wife, right?
I wanted to be an actor at one time.
Right.
That was my secret dream, is to be an actor. I took a couple acting courses and I did a monologue that my teacher, after I got done, of a man dying under a tree in Vietnam and looking at the leaf and comparing a leaf to the lines on his hands. I prepped for that. I watched Platoon and I watched Deer Hunter and all these really sad movies to get just really, really into the feeling of being afraid of being in like the Congo. When I got done, he said, I need to talk to you. And he gave me a piece of paper. He goes, I need you to do a cold reading for this director tomorrow. He says, this is you. And I can only explain it in what I see in Hollywood these days, but I was driving the next day and my spirit said, turn around. And what I saw was, and you remember what kind of a person I was back in the day. You probably watch me, stagger a lot and do those kind of things. But I thought, you know what? I had this vision of them finding me dead in a pile of women with cocaine and alcohol right next to it. I just would have been one of those sad Hollywood stories. And so
Yeah,
I just turned around. I said, no, I'm
a
not
little
going to do it. So that was my secret dream, was to be an actor.
Tony Montana.
I'm telling you. You know what? I've been watching Sopranos lately because of you.
Excellent. Early episodes. I mean, did you say I'm going to just start from the beginning, or did you
Yeah,
jump in?
I'm in season 2 now.
That's really, season one is tough because in the beginning, you really don't know what's going on. Like now, after you watch the show and you look at season one, you understand it more because you know how it's going to develop. But in the beginning, it was very different, almost like when they show the early cartoon drawings of Family Guy to the more modern ones, right? I mean,
Right.
the characters really took a season to evolve into themselves.
Well, it's interesting because I was reading something online, actually, a news feed, and it was talking about James Gandolfini. And the woman that played his Russian mistress said that she had never been kissed better than anybody in her life other than him. He was the
Really?
best kiss she'd ever experienced in his life, and it drove her crazy every time she got to kiss him. I thought, well, I never
Wow.
would have seen that in him, but those Italians, you don't know, you never know what they've got underneath their sleeve,
He was in so many great movies too.
Yeah. Yeah. What a
Some
great
really bizarre
actor.
roles. But
Okay, here I tone it down a little bit for you. What do you wish you had a second chance at?
here's an honest one. I've never shared this with anyone. So we worked together, right? So you sort of knew my style.
Yeah.
And I know I had the talent to be a good district manager.
Yeah.
And but I never had that opportunity because couldn't play the game. Couldn't play the game. I didn't know when to keep my fucking mouth shut. You ask me a question, you're gonna get the answer. That's a time when little white lies would come in handy.
No kidding.
But they wouldn't have been little white lies; they would have been blatant lies. So I think that would have been it. I really would have liked that opportunity. I mean, I've been a director of operations and different things, but I'm talking about a district manager. Like Black Angus Outback,
Right,
whatever. Any of
right.
the places I worked, the ability to orchestrate and manage, 3, 4, 5, 6 units. Most of them probably had 6. Sometimes during trouble times, some of those guys had 10 or 12.
Yeah.
You're so ineffective at that point, right? So, but I think a good amount of stores for a general manager in a high volume restaurant chain would be 6 to 8 max.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because you're talking about keeping your mouth shut. You and I are woven from the same cloth. We're two average Joes that speak their mind, and that's what gets them in trouble a lot. But we had Tim Klein over to Monrovia, not Monrovia, but to Lake Forest before you got there. And they were opening a new menu or something, and so they brought us all the food it was, what it was going to be. And with Klein sitting there, it was picture. I mean, they did an Outback where they changed out plates and made everything look beautiful. And here I am, a couple of drinks because we started in the bar, had some drinks, and shots and stuff. And stupid Kelly says, it sucks that we got to have you come here before we find out what the food is really supposed to look like. But that's the truth,
True.
But
true, right? And actually ties into what I just said. If a district manager, multi-unit manager has too much on his plate, then he's not able to pop into the stores. His presence, not quite like a VP, but still ups the game, right? I mean, your DM's in the store. The staff knows it. The managers know you. It's not the regular day, and I
no,
think
it's
without
not.
that presence, it's hard to maintain the results and expectations that you want out of a restaurant.
Exactly.
Right.
When I went to manage Monrovia, I lived over in Azusa, right across from Azusa Pacific University, and my manager was an assistant manager at the time for Black Angus. We were both all into the internet because it was just being born and, meeting people online in the chat rooms and stuff. And I got part of a bonus that year as a GM, Lee Kahn. Lee Kahn had worked the store ahead of time. I think he had 7 or 8 months. So I got a portion of it, and it was $1,999. I'll never forget that. That was my bonus check. And my roommate had gotten one also, a bonus check. And I said, what are you going to do with your bonus? And he says, well, what are you doing with yours? I said, well, there's this Volkswagen Bug I want to buy. What are you going to do with it? He goes, I'm going to buy AOL stock. And I said, what's that? Well, He sold his when he made a bunch of money, and he kicked himself because he sold it too quickly. Because I think out of $1,000, he made like 50 grand or something like that. But yeah, well, if you had kept it, we figured it out. If you kept it till it peaked, it would have been $250,000 worth. So that's the thing I kick myself about. It's like I wish I had a second chance to put just the money down. Or when my friend said, "Hey, give me $100," why? Because I'm going to buy this Bitcoin stuff. I'm like, screw you. When they first came out, can you imagine having $100 worth of Bitcoin and what it's worth right now?
Well, there was that guy in England. I think he gave up like about half a year ago or so ago. But for a couple of years, he was paying a reward and paying people to help him to go through, and they were digging through every dump station and dump site and all that because he had thrown his computer away, right, with the hard drive. And it had like, whatever, 80 Bitcoin, which in his mind was like, just fucking shoveled it off. Well, at that point, when he started looking for it, it would have been like millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Like it went up so much. He looked for almost 2 years.
Who would have thought? So
Money in the
missed
trash.
opportunity. Yeah, exactly. Okay, hit me with a question, young man.
Well, I've got a good one for you. What's a childhood fear? What's a childhood fear you've never outgrown?
Spiders, 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 spiders.
Really?
I have such a fear. I don't care. You couldn't put me in a room with a spider and expect me to ever be comfortable with that.
Even at like a daddy long leg?
It doesn't matter. A spider is a spider is a spider. Did you know that a daddy long legs, if they were huge, they would kill you because their venom is so toxic that it can kill you, but they're so tiny it can't hurt you.
If they were huge, I'd probably have a heart attack and that would kill me too. So
when I first moved to the Bay Area, I was right before 7th grade, and we lived at these foothills. And I'm kicking back with my friends on the sidewalk, laying back, and we just get out of the pool, sun, and it's like 85 to 90 degrees. And right next to me, I see this like this. Right next to my face was a tarantula. I just about crapped my pants, and I had a Schwinn Typhoon, one of an original cruiser, a beach cruiser, and I turned around and I grabbed my bike and I started slamming it with my front wheel. My friends would go, "No!" And I wasn't happy until I was sure all 200 pieces of that stupid thing were dead. I mean, I have such a fear of spiders. Still to this day, it can't get better. A friend of mine asked me to go down to, on his property, he had horse property, and he had a place down there he kept certain things, and he asked me to help him bring up a galvanized metal bucket, long troughed. And I went down there, he turned on the lights, I looked up, and I couldn't count the number of red hourglasses I saw. And I backed out of there, and I said, "I'm not helping you." He goes, "Don't be such a pussy." I said, "Call me what you want. I'm not going in there." And I never went in there, so
backed out of there.
I'm out there. I'm not helping you at all.
You did the Homer Simpson into the bushes.
Do you still have a fear from a childhood that you still have?
I would probably say, if anything, it's bats.
Really?
Bats. And oddly enough, I'm a huge Batman fan, but he's not a real bat. So when I was growing up, probably early teens, mid-teens, we lived in this house, had like 3 fireplaces, no screen. Right. So occasionally bats would get into the house. They'd fly down the chimney into the flue, right? Like one night I was there sleeping and the thing like flew past my head while I was in bed. So then it was like sleeping with the covers on every night. So that freaked my shit. I'd always get even the next day because, during the day they go hiding. So I just started looking around. I knew I'd find them behind a picture frame or something, right? And I'd have the fishing net, right? So I'd look and I'd finally find where they are and I'd get them in the fishing net. I'd take them out to the porch, a couple BBs to the head.
Well, hey, when I was
bats. So now if I go into a cave, some of those caves that are really cool, like when you're on vacation,
yeah,
I'm like fucking looking up and I'm like waiting for them to swarm down.
It's getting cold sweats in a place that's 35 degrees.
Well, shit. I mean, it's a fucking rat or a mouse with wings. What's worse?
Well, I heard the old rumors that they would get, if you had long hair, they would get caught in your hair and stuff. That used to freak me out. But when I was at Monrovia, sometimes when I wanted a little time to myself, I would take the key and unlock the hatch, go upstairs on the roof and smoke a cigarette when I smoked. And I had bats dive bomb me up there. I'm like, I'm never
really
here again. Yeah, Monrovia of all places.
I remember those hatches too. That's funny you mentioned that.
that was my sanctuary up there.
Clank, clank. You had to lock that thing in.
Okay, keep to the kid theme. What did you daydream about as a kid that you'd like to make a reality?
Say the closest thing would have to be, like an entertainer or a talk show host or a movie star or something like that. As shallow as that is, and as much as I almost really sort of dislike them in most cases, that was the thing. I would remember I'd be home, like the Christmas, for example. I'd be home and the folks would be out or whatever, and the Christmas tree would be lit and I'd have the fireplace on, and I'd have like a Coke glass with ice in it, and I would do Christmas carols. I would do my own show, right?
Nice, nice.
And this is really weird. And this is before the movie Truman even came out. I always used to think, God, wouldn't it be weird if like there was cameras on me and everybody saw my life, right?
Wow.
And that was weird. Then that movie came out, and by the way, that was an awesome movie with Jim Carrey.
Yeah, well, I know it well. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. He starts when he starts figuring it out, it is so funny.
Now, what was my daydream about being a kid? I wanted to be an astronaut because I was
Mm.
totally into the 1969 sitting on a carpet in Rockville, Maryland, watching them land on the moon. And all these people tell me, oh, it's fake. It never happened. It's like, well, they've got satellites that have actually, the Japanese. And believe me, I honestly believe that no country on this planet would back the United States if they can expose them and make us look weak. So I think if Japan went up there and they mapped the moon completely with two different satellites, and shown us, hey, there's Apollo 11, there's Apollo 12, there's Apollo 14, 15, 16, 17. All of them showed us all the, and you can see the lunar module bottom chassis still there. You can see the tire marks on there. So I don't think that they spent a lot of time recreating that. And I don't think that you could keep a secret. 250,000 people working together could keep a secret like that. I just don't think it's possible. Now, one thing that my friends tell me, well, look at how monotone and lack of personality these guys are. I said, they didn't get paid for being actors. They would ascertain facts. They didn't figure things out. And so even Mike Collins, he was the pilot who went around while the two, Armstrong and Lovell, went down, and he circled around and he said, people ask me that question, well, how did you feel? He goes, who cares how I felt? That had nothing to do with air pressure or this or that, all these facts. We didn't have time to think about how we felt. We were performing a
So,
deed.
so when you say that those multiple rockets had landed on the moon, would I assume that they at least strategically kept moving those? Because it's like landing on Earth. It depends where you land. You know, if you land in the Sahara Desert, it's going to be a lot different than if you land in fucking Wisconsin, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's what they
So,
did.
so did they splash it around a little bit to try to see if the entire, circumference of the moon had similar? Is it all one atmosphere, all the way, all one weather, all one everything, or is it like Earth, where depends where you are?
Well, they didn't go to the backside because it's always dark and the reception is non-existent back there.
I
So
always wish they would have wrote a song about that.
dark side of the moon, of course.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, they sure
Oh,
did. But now, see, Apollo 11 was just to get there. The Apollo 12 actually had a
Google.
mission. Apollo 12, they sent a couple of guys up there. Well, two guys that landed went there specifically to retrieve a satellite that had information.
Right.
And they went to the ocean of storms because the first one was the Sea of Tranquility. There's three mare. That's what they call them. The Mare Tranquillitatis is the middle one. And that's where they landed the first time.
Right.
And the second time they went to the ocean of storms. And so they went there to retrieve this box from the satellite. They brought it back. And the cool thing is that they had ascertained the fact that somebody had a cold when they were putting it together. And there was bacteria that lay dormant in space all that time. And when they brought it back to Earth, the bacteria started living again. And so that's
what
pretty.
was it? Did they determine? Did it cause something? Did people get sick?
No, he had a cold and he must have sneezed on what they were doing or something. It wasn't completely sanitary what they did.
Really?
But they retrieved that back. So they went to different places. They didn't go to extremes, not down to Tycho or something like that. That was for 2001 Space Odyssey, Tycho Monolith Anomaly 1, TMA 1. So that's a different kind of science fiction.
Is there water on the moon?
No, there's not.
It doesn't rain.
It does nothing. Does nothing. And I've seen the rocks from the moon. When I went to the Smithsonian as a kid, we saw it. It looked like gray rocks, but still, it was from the moon. I thought that was kind of cool.
Okay, so if there was no moon, how would that affect us? Just sunlight all day? Would we roast?
It's hard to say what would happen without it. Right now, if the moon exploded or something, we'd all die. I mean, because the gravitational pull would be messed with.
It changes the dynamics of what's going on up there.
We wouldn't be around. It would kill us. All the tides would be messed up and everything, and that's so it would be ugly.
If you could understand one person's thoughts for a day, who would it be and why? And I guess you could either make this like someone you love or someone you're connected to, or someone famous or current times, or let's say even past. Like let's say you wanted to talk to fucking Abraham Lincoln all day, right? So I'm going to open it up. All of history No, no, I want two answers: all of history and current times.
Okay, all of history probably Nikolai Tesla because he's responsible for electricity and Edison just stole it and made money off of it. And they raped his
Dick
place.
move.
Yeah, dick move. So yeah, I think Nikola Tesla because I just think that it was pretty amazing for him to some of the things he when he played around with electricity. And
Right.
that's one part of physics that I didn't do really well at. I didn't study and it should have been easy, but I didn't really work out the electronics like I should have. I got the math down, but it just wasn't really interesting me at the time. But so
Would it be presumptuous to assume that the car was named after him, or is it just a fluke?
the Tesla, no, it would probably because of an electric car, you know.
He was giving almost giving him honor.
Yeah, I think he was. I think that Elon Musk is a lot of things, but he's not stupid. That's one of the smartest men on the planet. You know, he's done
Right.
some amazing things. And he's also correctable. I got to go down to SpaceX once to drop something off when I did Uber a year, 2 years ago, something like that. I got to, and I'd never been down there. And so it was kind of cool, you know, and I got to go down there and drop off a package for something. And I just thought it was pretty amazing that this guy created this company and he was walking around talking to somebody. This video showed him talking to some high school kids, and some kid mentioned that about the shape of the cone at the top of his rocket. It didn't make sense aerodynamically, and he stopped and goes, "You know, you got a point there." And he changed the entire shape, the nose of his rockets because of this high schooler's opinion.
No kidding.
Yeah,
Wow.
so he wasn't so smart that he didn't listen to
I hope he
people.
gave him a crisp hundy or something.
I think he was just a kid observing what was going on. Now, as far as today, who would I like to be in their mind?
You know, understand one person's thoughts for a day. So that's not even like knowing what they're thinking, it's understanding them. I guess putting yourself in their shoes, I would assume.
Today, who would it be today? There's not a lot of people that impress me today. It's because when I think about being in someone, understand what they think. I want to scientific minds just blow my. I love listening to people think. So I'm
I'm
gonna have
almost embarrassed to say it, but I'd like to be in Donald Trump's brain for a day
I
because I'd
said that.
like
I
to
was
find
thinking
out
that.
is it bullshit? Is it fucking just strategic chess and cleverness? I mean, it's something, and could be a combination of both. But you know, I, in my mind at least, I'd like to put an end to it and just know that there, this isn't what it's portrayed out to be, and it's more what I believe it is. So, if anything, what I'd be gaining, I'd be putting to rest my
Gotcha.
belief that he's as crazy as a fox.
That's it. You know, that's an. I was gonna think. I was gonna say Donald Trump. It's like, you know, I don't know if I want to be in that mind. It's a little too whacked for me. When I was showing my wife
Well,
yesterday,
but hold on, I don't want to cut you off, but think about it. So we even remove the person, Donald Trump. Imagine just the position of the president, like to know to be in there, to understand their thoughts for a day. Can you imagine if any president, well, except Biden, had so many things they had to deal with simultaneously, right? I mean, there's a
right?
lot on your fucking plate.
Yeah.
You have to be organized. You have to know how to delegate. You have to, there's so many managerial skills that would go into being president, social skills, speaking, even that any president, pick any of them. Like you could be in Nixon's head for a day, right? That'd be fucking
That'd be wild.
pick your
Kennedy
president,
dead.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
You'll never find those tapes.
Which is a laugh today as far as crime goes. Is no big deal. But
Yeah.
there's a show that my wife and I absolutely love, and it's called West Wing. And it's like it's a
Oh
Democrat.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And there's 7 seasons, and I absolutely love it because it doesn't matter the political party. It
Martin Sheen.
Yeah, yeah. And Martin Sheen did the prequel to that was called The American President, where Michael Douglas was the
Oh,
president
right.
and he was
Yeah.
the chief of staff. Well, they originally
Right.
when they designed that show to West Wing to come out, they weren't going to have the president be in there at all, except maybe once every 5 or 6 episodes. But he had such a good dynamic with everybody, they kept him in there. And
Yeah.
it's funny because a lot of lines you'll hear, it's like, what is the he's talking about a proportional response. What is the merit of a proportional response? These are some of the same phrases that were used in that movie and in the TV show. But
Right.
what I get to see, my kids end up watching with me all the time. They hated it, but I said, look, you're going to watch this because every day, every episode, they teach you something about politics, and it's the hardest course
Right.
I've ever taken in my life was political science, and I've taken calculus, which wasn't as hard as that.
Was Rob Lowe in that show?
Oh, yes, he was. Yes, I got a man crush on him in that show. He was just like he was a lawyer from Gage Whitney in New York, and then he ended up leaving the show to go do something else. But he went and kind of became a congressman, and some not congressman, but I think it was some kind of a representative somewhere else
Right.
in Orange County because it was the first time a Democrat had ever been elected in Orange County. He went down there to work with that. So, that's I enjoy watching that show because you get to see it's like, man, how can people handle this much garbage? What's next? What's next? What's next? What's
Right.
next? So much
Right.
stuff
That's
going
what I
on.
mean.
And you look at any president, the day they're elected and put it side by side with the last day they were in office, they've aged 40 years. I mean, they've got
One
crazy.
exception.
Who's that?
Trump.
Well, the doctors say he's in amazing shape and he's got low body fat, and I say that's a bunch of horse shit because I've never
Well,
seen
no, I'm not
somebody
talking
horse
about
shit.
that though, but maybe it's because the way he dyes his hair the whole time, so it's consistent. The other presidents, we saw them all go gray,
Yeah.
but you're not going to see Donald go gray because he was already older. He was already gray technically underneath the dye, right?
He's 80 now?
So appearance wise, I mean, if you look at, I'm just saying, I'm not trying to promote him. I'm just saying, if you look at pictures of him, even in the whatever the 2016 or whatever the last to the current one.
Well,
Well, listen, well, for you and I, fun as always.
always a good time, my friend. Always a good time.
Sign us off.
Hey, everybody, be good humans and love each other, and let's make this a better world to live in. Take care. Hey, right there, right at you, brother. Take care, my friend. Bye-bye.